Good morning, Dave. First, a general
Hey, good
question. How
morning,
goes
Hugh.
the campaign?
It feels great, honestly. I mean, I'm going down the home stretch here, Hugh. As you know, I'm a wrestler, and I always said that if I could be within a couple points going into the third period here, I'd win, because at that point it's all about hard work, and that's where we are. The campaign's going well. It feels like there's good momentum across our great Commonwealth. The polls are closing. And I think most important, we are running right now against Kamala Harris, who is the most liberal nominee in the history of modern history of the Democratic Party, and Bob Casey, who is a rubber stamp career politician who's voted 98% of the time with Harris and Biden, and that radical agenda, the banning of fracking, the mandatory buybacks of guns, the legalization of illegal immigration, the federal benefits, all those issues are completely out of step with Pennsylvanians. And then on top of that, people are terribly upset by the inflation, by the fentanyl crisis that's happened under the Biden-Harris-Casey regime. So I'm optimistic. It's going to be close, but I feel pretty good about it.
All right, DaveMcCormickPA.com if you want to help out Dave. The reason I'm optimistic is that everybody and their brother knows as Pennsylvania goes, so goes this election. So Trump Vance is going to be there all the time. You're going to have to do like 1,000 events with Trump or Vance. That's good, isn't it? I mean, you are going to be the centerpiece of campaign 2024.
Well, President Trump has been here a number of times already, and I've been to a number of events with him. And listen, here's what I honestly believe. I think he absolutely helps. He's going to ensure a great turnout for Republicans. We got to win big with our base of voters. There's 67 counties, 58 of them are red. I mean, this is a state that's increasingly becoming red, and I'm hopeful. I say this with humility. I'm hopeful I can really help President Trump, because I think I can appeal to some voters that may be on the fence, and I can get them over to vote for me and also vote for President Trump. And we're very aligned. And there's no doubt that both of us are campaigning on the fact that if Harris, Casey win, they're going to take our country over the edge, where we're going to lose some of the building blocks of what's made America great. We're not going to recognize this great country without secure borders, without common sense economic policy, without strength on the global stage. And we don't have those things under Biden Harris. And it's going to get a heck of a lot worse if Kamala Harris wins the presidency. And the thing I keep saying, and there's lots of evidence for it, Bob Casey's a sure thing. He is a 98% vote for this liberal radical agenda that's out of step with Pennsylvania. And I think people recognize that. We got to make that case for the next 60 days, but I think people recognize that and are beginning to recognize that across the Commonwealth. That agenda, that liberal San Francisco agenda, is just out of touch with Pennsylvania.
And then you add in Tim Walz, and everybody knows it's the most radical major party ticket since World War II by a lot. It's not even close to Obama. It's way out there. Now, Dave McCormick, I hate PolitiFact. I hate them. I think they are left-wing activists disguised as journalists, and they never get it right. They often get it wrong. But shock and surprise, shock and awe. They almost got something right. Bob Casey was absolutely lying through his teeth, but they said it was mostly false what Bob Casey said. Would you give us the background on the day that I have to say PolitiFact was almost right on something?
Yeah, well, listen, this is, hope springs eternal here. These guys got it right. But, there's been a track record of Bob Casey lying over and over again. He's lied about my positions. PolitiFact said he's false on his claims that I'm for banning abortion. But yesterday they came out and said that Bob Casey's claims that inflation, the rise in prices, the spiraling out of control prices, are the result of greedflation and shrinkflation. It's the private sector that's gouging the customers. That's his claim. And PolitiFact said that's false, mostly false. And that the cause of inflation, the cause of these runaway prices, is the extreme spending that's taken place under Biden-Harris-Casey. $5 trillion of new spending, and the war on fossil fuels, which is particularly damaging for Pennsylvania. That's the cause. And even, listen, Larry Summers, a Democrat mainstream economist, the San Francisco Fed, all these people have said that the cause of inflation is this runaway spending. And so Bob Casey is trying to change the conversation. I learned early on in the military and in life, one of the key things about leadership is accountability, owning your decisions. And Bob Casey said, "Go big or go home." This spending is going to not create inflation. And then behind closed doors, he acknowledges that it would. So he's
Bob
lying about a lot
Casey
of
is
things.
he's such a weak guy. I mean, he's the weakest guy in the world. Dave McCormick, I want to go to veterans for a moment. You're a graduate of West Point. You served in the 82nd. There is a kerfuffle over Arlington. I believe it is a manufactured controversy because I've gone to Arlington often. I've taken pictures often. The families of the fallen invited President Trump to go. They asked him to bring a videographer. I'm going to ask Tom Cotton next hour. He was in the old guard. But what do you make of this story? It's a made-up story.
Well, I think it's a made-up story on top of many made-up stories, and I wasn't there obviously, but I've read the accounts of this, and here you have these families. 13 families lost a loved one in the botched withdrawal of Afghanistan. It's an absolute disgrace. It was honestly the catalyst, the straw that broke the camel's back for me running last time was this weak leadership under Biden, Harris, Casey in Afghanistan, and even to this day, Biden and Harris have never mentioned the names of those 13 fallen men and women. This is a disgrace, and I think President Trump, at their invitation, is honoring their service, honoring their sacrifice, and to have this sort of be blown up and politicized. But they weren't shooting a commercial there. He was there to honor the fallen, and now it's being used for political gain. And this is happening over and over again. Listen, I don't know President Trump that well, but I've been with him a couple times in the last few months. I see time and again things that I've actually heard him say being misrepresented in the press. And God knows things I said and say are lied about over and over again. And I'm terribly disappointed by how the press has treated this campaign, the president's campaign, and my campaign. It happens over and over again. And this is this is what we have
I
to
think
break
they've
through.
lost their control, Dave. I really believe big media has been broken. Now, tonight, Dana Bash is sitting down with Vice President Harris. There are two questions I consider absolutely essential on the domestic side, only two. The first is, do you support expanding the Supreme Court? Because that's as radical as it gets. Even FDR had to abandon court packing. But I want it asked and answered. And then number two, and this matters a lot in Pennsylvania, in 2019, you were absolutely against fracking, Madam Vice President. What is your position now? I think she's still against fracking. What do you think, Dave McCormick? And is Bob Casey against fracking?
Yeah, listen, there's no doubt in her own words over and over again. As you know, Hugh, I've shown commercial after commercial of her saying she wants to eliminate fossil fuels. She wants to eliminate the filibuster, by the way, to be able to pass the new Green Deal and then ban fracking and transition energy workers. This would be devastating for Pennsylvania, absolutely devastating. And Bob Casey will support that liberal agenda. Bob Casey has been extremely weak on our energy sector. He voted against or voted with President Biden closing down the Keystone pipeline. He's been in favor of these EPA restrictions. 70% of light vehicles by 2032, new sales have to be EVs under the Biden-Harris-Casey EPA. He has been a soft voice. He's very reluctant to ever take a stand on anything, but time and again he's voted for fracking restrictions and legislation. He's voted for a cap and trade policy, which would be devastating to Pennsylvania workers and families. So this is a guy who buys into the idea that we need to eliminate fossil fuel consumption. And the fact of the matter is that natural gas in Pennsylvania is incredibly important for our national strength, our geopolitical strength. It's incredibly important for our economy. These are great jobs, hundreds of thousands of them that we could double or triple in the years to come. And finally, it's great for our environment because this clean natural gas exported around the world will replace coal-fired plants in India and China, which will be great for our global climate. So this is the
Dave
most
McCormick, I
cynical.
want to make sure. I want to make sure we close by letting people know how to give you money. Dave McCormick,
Yeah.
PA, right? That's the website.
Yeah, good.
Dave McCormick,
Yeah,
PA.
but to learn more about me and all my policies, Hugh, I've laid it all out there. Anything you want to know about what I believe, you can find DaveMcCormickPA.com. I'm out on the campaign trail, running hard between now and November 5th.
And the reason I bring it up, I talked to Steve Daines last week. It's off the record. I'm not going to tell you what we talked about, but he's feeling pretty optimistic about you. And I guess the small donor reaction, which is so critical, is an indication of enthusiasm. Even if it's $3 or $30 or $5 or $50, it matters for people to go to DaveMcCormickPA.com and get involved because those numbers indicate a lot to other people.
Yeah, those numbers are growing like crazy in terms of tens of thousands of new donors every quarter coming on and donating small dollars. And honestly, it makes a huge difference. This is the most expensive race in the country, but I'm honored by it. I mean, it's such a privilege to be doing this and to feel like you've got that support from people across our Commonwealth, across our country. It's just the boost you need going into the home stretch here.